Welcome to Looking Within, a podcast to help you quiet your mind, settle your body, and see God's presence in your everyday life. I'm Julie. I hope our time together will help you to feel more grounded, whole, and filled with a growing desire to be a conduit of God's love and presence to the world around you. Now, let's begin. Today we continue a 4-part series on letting go. We've been taking these weeks to consider some things from our life that we might do well to let go of. The falling leaves have been our model and inspiration for this series as we watch them willingly let go of their attachments to trees and bushes. Psalm 46:10 from the Bible has also been a wonderful reminder. Be still and know that I am God. Or, as it might also be thought of, let go and know that I am God. For us, letting go can often mean that a burden or a weight can be lifted off of our hearts and minds, bringing a sense of relief, of freedom, of a space in which our partnership with God and life can be more readily discovered and lived out. When we let go, it seems like more instances of joy and lightheartedness can be ours, and we tend to lean into God more often, feeling more connected to and led by the divine. So far, we've considered letting go of overbooked and marginless schedules, and letting go of our frequent desire to control the present moment. Today, let's consider discarding useless weight from our hearts and minds. I recently did a deep dive into pulling things out of some storage areas in our house in order to declutter. I've been facilitating a weekly online group looking at living with simplicity, so I was in the mood for some decluttering. You know how you have to be in a certain mood for projects like this? Well, I was. My husband and I have lived in our house for multiple decades. We've raised 2 children and brought in items from our parents' homes after they've passed or when they've changed living situations. As I pulled apart these storage spaces so we could see exactly what we had neatly stored away, it became apparent that there was much to take to a local charity and to a children's consignment store, or to put in the trash. The multitude of items represented our parents' lives, our lives, and our children's lives, and our wonderful memories attached to each of those. The several days of decluttering had a profound effect on me. It felt so good to take on that project. As you and I reflect today on discarding useless weight from our lives, I'm sure our minds immediately do go to decluttering items and possessions from our living spaces. But there are even more important things to let go of beyond possessions, things that can actually be somewhat damaging to us and that live in our minds and hearts. These can be largely hidden things, but oh, how life-depleting they can be, shifting us into spending most of our lives living in our ego or separated selves, and less in our true and connected selves. Examine your mind and heart for a moment. Do you spot any of these useless weights, things like constant worry, fear, and wanting to control things that are frankly way beyond your control? Do you spot the tendency to complain or to never be satisfied with what the present moment is? Are there stories and narratives that you keep resurrecting, stories you've told yourself for years that are centered around bitterness, entitlement, and victimhood? Is there some hate or resentment inside of you? Are there grudges you've carried for literally decades? Are you holding on to guilt and shame over something that happened years, even decades ago? Well, you get the idea. We all likely have at least a bit of some of these types of things inside of us. They can pop up occasionally, But it's when we frequently deal with these things, when they block our ability to find happiness, contentment, and a sense of connectedness with God and others on a regular basis, that it becomes apparent that we might do well to let go of these inner life things. When we declutter our homes, that ritual of seeing and discarding what is no longer needed for the journey is an invitation to do the same with things that we carry in our hearts and minds. There's such a good feeling to look around our homes and to see decluttered space, isn't there? But what about your inner self? What's in there that is unhealthy for you, or maybe even toxic in some way? What is no longer needed for your journey? I'm thinking that when we can let go of and discard these useless inner weights, our hearts might be wonderfully opened and even more attuned and ready to hear God and to walk in loving partnership with our divine source. Let's think about this during our quiet moments together. In this quiet space and time, I'd invite you to gently close your eyes and to take a few deep breaths in and out, in and out. Hear the sound of the bowl calling you to look within. Let it center you. Let it awaken you to God's presence. To declutter our homes is a kind of cleansing of our living spaces. What needs cleansing and discarding in your inner life spaces? Feel how the spaces inside of you that you create by letting go can be filled instead by God's loving, compassionate, and grace-filled presence. I'll be back with you in about 3 minutes. take one more minute to notice what's happened in your heart while you were in the quiet. What insight or intention will you carry forward? And by just being with God, resting in God's loving presence, and letting God enjoy your presence. I'd invite you now to take a few deep breaths in and out. In and out. Hear the bowl sound calling you back to this day. Gently open your eyes, remaining still for a moment longer. The more neatly and strategically we store and pack away our possessions, the more we just don't realize the multitude of items that fill the boxes and containers occupying the shelves and cupboards of our homes. The same can be true of our inner life. If you've been engaging in some decluttering during the pandemic, let those projects remind you of the need to spot and discard inner life emotions and stories that have been hidden away and a bit off your radar. These useless inner life weights are damaging to your journey and holistic health and are no longer needed on your journey. Let go and know that I am God, Psalm 46 says. May these words encourage you to survey your inner life and to let go of anything that takes up space inside of you, space that can be freed up to be filled instead by God's grace and love as you continue on your journey. Thank you for making time for your inner self today, for developing and enriching your relationship with God through reflection and discovery. Whatever you've experienced, carry that with you in the coming days. You can find more episodes at our website, Gloria-Day, that's DEI.com/lookingwithinpodcast, or subscribe through your favorite podcast app. If you know someone who might enjoy and benefit from this podcast, share it with them. Your financial contributions make this ministry possible. To give, visit Gloria-Day.com/giving. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you next time.